let's carry on here. Let's carry on. We got another video to watch. This one's of our good friend Andreas Antonopoulos, and this was when he was on Joe Rogan. And what I really want to see in the not so distant future is I want to see somebody else on Joe Rogan. I think that a good candidate would probably be Jack Mallers. Jack Dorsey's been on there before. He seems to, there's different directions that Jack can go into. Or Saylor. I think Saylor and Rogan would be an awesome conversation. I think that nobody else really goes as deep into topics as Rogan does, for the most part. I mean, not every show, but like a 2 or 3 hour conversation with Saylor and just blow Rogan's mind. I think Rogan's already a Bitcoiner, but I think it would be really good because he would ask questions that people like us have to Saylor. I think that's why Rogan's become so popular, is because he asks the questions that the normal people want to know. He doesn't pretend to be somebody he's not. He just asks questions. So let's watch this. This is from Andreas Antonopoulos, and he's kind of talking about, as this tweet suggests, this was I'd imagine 5 or 6 years ago now, but the tweet says Andreas was 100% right. This is exactly what's happening in our society right now. So this one's 3 minutes long, but definitely worth to listen to, and then we'll discuss after.
Or a lot. The problem is we are going to a digital currency society where cash will be gradually eradicated, either through non-use, or a lot of countries and a lot of governments are trying to actively ban it. So they're putting limits on how much you can use cash. Say, $1,000, and if it's more than $1,000, using cash is illegal. When we go to the society, we have to really think about the implications. Do we want a society in which our digital money is under complete surveillance and complete control, where if you go to the wrong protest, or if you support the wrong political campaign, or if you make a payment to the wrong person or receive money from the wrong person, suddenly your money disappears. It's no longer yours anymore. It's frozen, it's seized, it's gone. And someone has control of that. Corporations, banks, governments, and in most cases, there is no difference between corporation, bank, and government, right? And so that's one scenario. And the other scenario is one in which individuals control their money. And it is digital money, but it's digital cash like Bitcoin, where you can pay an individual from one person to another, just like I can with cash today, without any other party getting involved. What really strikes me as amazing is that we've gotten used to this idea so quickly, which is that we no longer pay people. We no longer pay people directly. The less we use cash, the more we pay people through a corporation, right? So from tipping your valet to tipping your taxi driver to tipping wherever, tipping is pretty much the last remaining part of our society where cash is used to pay from one person who is not an incorporated entity to another person who is not an incorporated entity. Everything else you have to pay through a corporation, whether it's a bank, right? Whether it's Venmo, whether it's PayPal, whether it's any of those things. And we've gradually gotten used to this environment where we can't pay another person unless there's a corporation involved. And that's astonishing to me. And as cash disappears, that then becomes a final fact, that every single payment in your life will be from you to a corporation.
And that corporation takes a piece of that, every single thing.
And not just that, it doesn't just take a piece, it also controls and surveils and monitors your use. And if you violate the terms and conditions, you are destitute.
Wow.
So the issue is not what we have today versus the digital currency of the future or Bitcoin or whatever. It's both futures are digital currency, and in both futures, cash will no longer exist. That is inevitable. We are going down that road, and now we have to choose. Do we go to the digital cashless society of corporate control over money with the complete and total merging of corporate and state money, where instead of having separation of state and money, you have the merging of state and money and corporation and money, where your money is branded money? You have Chase dollars, you have Goldman Sachs dollars, you have Coca-Cola dollars, right? You have money that is controlled by a corporation. Or do we go down the other future, where we have money that is basically an internet protocol that is completely global, that any person can pay any person, they meet in the streets without any corporations getting involved, just from me to you, digital cash? And that's really it's a less optimistic view, because I'm fully aware of what the other future is, and it's already playing out. And it is in my opinion, a very dangerous future.
Kind of going back to what I was talking about there in terms of, the Freedom Convoy stuff, the things that happened here in Canada that led me to Bitcoin. That's what the specific part of it that led me to Bitcoin was, that aspect of it. I could see what they were doing with the passports, the digital IDs, the digital currencies. I could see where that was going to go to. And I knew that I was somebody, just knowing myself well, knowing where I stood with everything. And what I learned in the last little while, knowing where I stood there, I knew that I was not going to be somebody who was able to just do whatever I wanted in that world. And I know that I would be somebody who probably would have my accounts frozen, or I would have my energy bill or utility shut off for the month, whatever it is. I knew that I wasn't somebody that was just going to comply with things for the sake of complying and keeping my lights on. I knew that I wasn't that person. And so I started looking into different options. And the one that obviously stood out most to me was this Bitcoin thing. Everything else, nothing came close to that. Once you understand what Bitcoin is and what it wants to do, on the Bitcoin white paper, it says at the top, peer-to-peer electronic cash. That's what Bitcoin is. That's what it was designed to do. I know it's turned into a whole bunch of different things. We got Wall Street here. We got governments talking about it. The big banks are going to be holding it. But from the very principle of Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer electronic cash, which to me is the equivalent of handing somebody a $20 bill, where you earn that somehow. Something you did in your life, you added enough value that somebody paid you $20, or you stole it. I don't know. But you had that $20 and you exchanged that value to somebody else. And nobody else knew about that at all. Your bank didn't know about it. The government didn't know about it. Nobody else knew that you gave that person that $20 bill. And that's the world that we need to get to in the digital sense. And I think that Bitcoin does have the ability to facilitate that like nothing else. And an example of that would be, and I was just talking with her right before the show because I need a haircut today, or not today, but this week. So a perfect example of that is with your hairdresser. So you get your haircut, they charge you your normal amount, and then you give them a tip. And usually people give them $10, $5, $20, their hairdresser, whatever it is. But that's the exchange of cash. That's why hairdressers love cash so much, because they don't have to claim that amount. Nobody knows that I gave her that $20 bill. So when I was explaining Bitcoin to her a couple months ago, I said it's the exact same thing with Bitcoin. If I have sats in my wallet of Satoshi, and the beauty of this, starting kind of from square one here, and I think that this is where things are going to evolve from in the future, but you get onto Nostr. This is the starting point here. You get onto Nostr, you post, you talk about things that you're into. Other people find you. If they feel like they're adding value to them, they can send you Bitcoin. And your ID is not attached to that. Your phone number is not attached to that. So you accumulated that Bitcoin, those sats, without anybody knowing about that. They're not connected to you at all. So then you send it to your wallet of Satoshi, or if she's on Nostr, you can zap her profile. But the wallet of Satoshi there, you could send it there and then give it to her. Send her 10,000 sats. And that process there, nobody knows that I have that money, and nobody knows that she has that money now. So that's what Bitcoin, that's what it was designed to do, to separate money from state and to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash. So just envision a world where everybody that you come in contact with all day has a wallet of Satoshi. And they're familiar with it. They're familiar with how to accept, how to send money. Everybody knows that's like the new wallet. So I think it was Adam last week he was talking about, he needed his bike tire filled up, I believe. So he went to a tire shop or someplace with air. They filled his tire. And he said, imagine if they would have had a wallet of Satoshi and I could have just sent them 2,000 sats. And then you go even further than that. So that whole process, that whole process of money, where I earned it on Nostr for just adding value to the world. That's kind of what humans are supposed to do. So I earned that. Nobody knew I have that. I sent it to her. Nobody knows I sent it to her. Nobody knows she has it now. And then kind of further down the road is, then you start accumulating that. And one tool I've found in the last week or two was the Aqua wallet. So then you could just move that from your wallet of Satoshi into Aqua, and then eventually send it to your Sparrow wallet where nobody knows that you have it. Nobody will ever know that you have that. And then take it even one step further than that. And think about with Trump, with the different politicians, there's going to be countries who are against Bitcoin. There's going to be countries who are for Bitcoin. But think of a country like the US and put yourself in the scenario here where Trump gets elected and he's been talking about no tax on tips. So you go through that whole route there. And then, so you send it to your hairdresser, you maybe buy some meat with it, you buy some honey, you buy a new t-shirt. You go through that whole process there without anybody knowing that you have it. And then you pay somebody with it. And if there's no tax on tips, how do you differentiate a tip from normal business income? That's what I want to know. So if you go through that whole journey, think about what happens to income taxes over time here. Whether politicians are willing to adopt that in terms of no tax on tips and how to differentiate tips versus income, then where do the tax dollars come from? So it's this whole thing. And then you understand the fact that Bitcoin mining is going to actually supplement income taxes. We're going to move from human resources paying for government into natural resources where we're using our waterfalls, our wind, our solar, our nuclear, everything that we have in terms of energy sources, converting that into Bitcoin and actually funding their operations with that instead of on the backs of citizens. So that's the whole journey from start to finish in terms of getting yourself out of the old system. That whole process there of earning money on Nostr by adding value to others, paying for things with it, tipping people. Nobody knows you have it. Nobody knows they have it. You can go through that. The tools are already available for it. You just have to do it. But it's possible now.